It's a critical job, right? We move a lot of kids through this city. We move on the elementary scale 5,000 or 6,000 kids around every day. It's an impressive piece of logistical magic that happens every morning. It's fun to watch.
Welcome to Herrimanology.
The official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. Today it's Thursday, June 27th. I don't know when we're going to post this, so that date may be completely irrelevant. But this is going to be fun. Looking forward to this. I'm John LaFollette, Communications Manager for Herriman City. Today, alongside Chief Troy Carr, the Herriman Police Department, in case the apparel was not self-explanatory.
The patch didn't show that.
With Brittany Lovendahl, the Assistant Crossing Guard Coordinator for Herriman Police or City.
Yes.
Maybe we'll get into that. It's probably just a yes, all the above.
All of it.
And Bethany Zeyer, like Fred Meyer, I just got this, the Crossing Guard Supervisor for Herriman. So thanks for coming. We're talking crossing guards today, in case you hadn't gotten that. So we are posting for this job right now. So part of this is going to be to see if those listening or watching might be interested. And if you're not, this is still going to be interesting to see what crossing guards do, because we see crossing guards throughout the entire school year, all throughout the city. And people may not totally understand what the job entails. So what does a crossing guard do? What are the things that crossing guards are responsible for? Just kind of maybe lay it out there. What does a crossing guard do?
So crossing guards their main job is to keep the kids safe on their way to school. So the schools create the safe walking routes, and then through working with the city engineers and the police department and the schools, we all partner together and decide where the crossing guards are going to be located. And then their job is just to make sure that the kids are safe as they go through the crosswalks and arrive safely at their destination.
Probably a lot to keep track of between state law.
It's a big job, right?
Kids themselves are a handful. There are often A-frames in the road, or you have the
advisory
the
systems that are
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's a critical job, right? We move a lot of kids through this city. And not all of them are ours. We cross kids into our city from other cities to go to the schools that are in Herriman. So it's a critical job. We probably move, we educate around 20,000 kids a year. And we move on the elementary scale 5,000 or 6,000 kids around every day. Yeah. And Bethany's going to tell you how many crossings we have. It's an impressive piece of logistical magic that happens every morning when we have it. It's fun to watch.
We are very unique because Herriman has a ton of elementary schools. So we actually have 11 elementary schools in Herriman. And what's fun is that I don't think you can actually drive anywhere in this town without crossing one, because there are so many. There are 46 crossing locations in our city. And we have about 60 crossing guards that help us to make sure all those kids get to school safely.
And that's important to note, that we have more crossing guards than we do crossings because of logistics, like people being sick or something, but also to include there's times that we have more than one crossing guard per crossing because they're classified as a difficult crossing, right? I hesitate to say dangerous, but our adults are there to cross our kids because being in the road can be dangerous. Sure. So, and we always implore the motoring public to watch for our children and watch for our crossing guards. And hopefully we'll get into a little bit about the equipment they get to use and those kind of things, because it's a big job. It's an important job. And getting those kids home without an accident every day is that's our mission.
What do you wish drivers knew, or if they do know, what do you wish they did every day that maybe it's our frustrations or something you just want people to know as they're driving around?
I'll go first, because it's not worth the 30 seconds you're going to save to speed through a school zone, to disregard a crossing guard. It's not worth that. It's not worth it for you. It's certainly not worth it for the people that are in the crosswalk. And that's my big one. And there's a ton of others that obviously are important to know. So
I would say that's the main one as well. Just slow down, whether it's a reduced speed zone or not. If you see crossing guards and kids around, just slow down. The kids aren't paying attention.
The one I want to share is about the crosswalks, because a lot of people don't know that there are different kinds of crosswalks. So if I can take a minute and
Sure.
explain, that would be great. There are two specific types of crosswalks in Herriman. We have the parallel lines, and then the other one is what I call the zebra stripes. And zebra stripes are designated as school crossing zones. And the laws are different. So the penalty for breaking those laws are different for the different kinds of crosswalks. So the zebra stripes, those you are not allowed to proceed through until no one is in the crosswalk. If everyone is out of the crosswalk, then you can proceed. And that is all the time. It's not just during school hours. It is an all the time thing. The parallel lines, you can actually proceed if someone is on the other half of the crosswalk. Those are the two. And so I just love to educate people because a lot of people don't even recognize that there are different kinds of crosswalks.
Yeah, some people probably understandably wonder, well, it's a Saturday. There are no kids here. There's a jogger going across. You still need to wait.
Right.
And for the entire crosswalk. And yes, it's going to feel awkward if you're sitting in the far right lane and there's a jogger on a Saturday on
3
the other
lanes
side of the
over,
road.
Yes.
Yeah.
You still need
And
to
someone's
wait.
honking behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold your line. Yep. Keep
Yep.
obeying the laws.
So that's an important distinction. And that's across the entire state of Utah. It's a state law.
Yeah, it is.
What are some of the things that you find fulfilling about being a crossing guard? And maybe you don't have time to think about that during the day.
Oh,
but-
that's
No,
easy.
we have a lot of examples. The kids, first of all, are so fun, and they get to know you as the guard. And I'm a substitute crossing guard as well. And when I go to a different crossing location, the kids are always like, "Where's Samantha? Like, why isn't she here?" Because they love their guards. And it becomes a safe place for them and a familiar face, same as their teacher. They see every day and they rely on. So just the kids, and they get to know you. And Bethany has a lot of examples of things that our guards do that
We love to brag about
are
them.
outstanding.
We
Like
have
the
amazing
best
crossing guards.
ladies.
Yeah. So there's one crossing guard that the kids love her so much that every day they bring her stickers. And so she has let them put stickers on her stop sign. And I was like, okay, but you can't cover up stop. So the bottom half of her stop sign is covered in stickers. And then at that point, it got so full that now they're sticking them on her cone. So it's just like this relationship that she has with all the kids that she crosses, and they just adore each other. I have other crossing guards who are well known for being the happy face first thing in the morning. They're waving, they're out, they're just so friendly, and they know the kids by name. I have one crossing guard who not only does she know the names of all the kids that she crosses, but she knows their parents' names and their siblings' names. And so when they come, the parents will actually come to pick up the kids that they're crossing just so that they can interact with her. And we have a lot of great crossing guards. I have some crossing guards that can manage 200 children all by themselves, and it's because they have that respect with one another. And there's a lot of we have a great team.
Well, and let's not forget they're heroes. And
Right.
they have prevented tragedies to their own peril. Some of them have been injured, but to my knowledge, our children have been safe
Yes.
for all the years we've been an incorporated city. Yeah. So that to me on the police side is like that's the biggest thing we can do as a police department is get your kids home to you safely.
Yeah.
And that might be an easy thing to forget day in and day out on the job too, because you're there every day. Some of it may seem very mundane or monotonous, but you really are fulfilling a safety function every day. And these kids and their parents and their friends are all relying on crossing guards to help them get across busy roads safely when drivers may or may not be driving well.
Correct.
Yeah.
What does a day look like for a crossing guard? Because it's a unique schedule because it's built around school times, right? What does all that look like?
Which is one of the benefits of the job is, that it's a part-time, but it's pretty flexible during the day, and you have your afternoons and mornings free. But each shift is anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes long. All the schools have different times, so that just kind of varies. We start about 7:30 is probably the earliest shift. You're out in the wind or the snow or the rain or whatever the conditions are for your shift. And then again in the afternoon, you come back. And then Fridays are a different schedule as well, as elementaries get out a little earlier. So it's flexible. I think that's why a lot of the ladies and men, we have men crossers as well now. That's why a lot of people like it, because come in the morning, come in the afternoon, you have the rest of your day free or free to do another job. So
Yeah, a lot of our employees actually have other jobs that they do during the day, and so they'll just take a break and come do their crossings for the 30 minutes. Many of our crossing guards are stay-at-home moms who actually are dropping their kids off, so they might as well get paid to be there. So it's a great gig.
True.
It's a great gig. Yeah.
What's some of the equipment like? I noticed maybe all the guards have flashers on shoulders.
We got the new
Yes.
Guardians
They're,
out. We were pretty
Yes.
excited about that.
Obviously, the stop sign is a hallmark of crossing guards
Very
everywhere. Vest, what?
The infamous cone.
the
Yes.
cones.
Listen, a lot of our cones
Our
are
cones-
black because they've been run over
Run
so
over
many
so much.
times.
They get abused. They get abused.
Yeah.
My favorite piece of equipment is we have electric whistles. And they're very helpful to get people's attention, drivers, kids, however we need to use that. And the Guardian, which is a light that we wear on our shoulder, and it just helps us to be a lot more visible along with our reflective vest or coat. So those are my two favorite, but
Those things have been very important, especially when the time change happens, because some of our guards are actually crossing kids in the dark.
yeah.
That's a really hard. I would love it if people would be extra cautious during the dark seasons, because there are kids that have to get themselves out the door on their own, and so if we can keep extra eyes out for them in the dark, that's very much appreciated.
And we have seen great success with the strobe, the Guardian, catching people's attention that they may not otherwise have. And they are literally in the dark a couple times during the season.
And we want to keep the kids safe. That is our number one
Yeah.
priority. But I also want to keep my crossing guards safe, because they are very dear to me as well. And so I want all of them to go home safe at the end of the day.
One thing, shifting gears to, that a lot of people may get confused about, we only cross elementary school kids in Herriman, correct?
Correct.
No high school crossings, no middle school crossings to my knowledge, is just elementary schools. But that includes the private schools, correct?
Correct. And it's a
Charter
weaning.
schools.
It's a
Charter
weaning.
schools,
It's a
right.
weaning process. So in elementary, we have safe walking routes and crossing guards. When they get to middle school, they just have a safe walking route, and then by the time they get to high school, we have hopefully helped to train good growing adults so that they don't have either safe routes or crossing guards.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Who are you employed by? It's kind of been a mixed function. It's certainly a joint effort between the police department, the city, or the school district. Who are you employed by? How does that structure all kind of work out?
So it's actually a question that we get asked the very most. Is many people think that we're volunteers, so we're not. We're actually paid. And then other people think that we're employed by the school districts, and we're not. We're actually employed by Herriman City, and then we are under the umbrella of the police department. So that way, that's who is paying us. And so it is a collaborative effort to make sure that all of us are communicating. We go and we meet with all of the schools every year to just make sure that everything is what their expectations are, and it's a good team effort.
But I think you're right. It is misunderstood, right? Who do these people work for? And it really is probably more than not believe that they just volunteer.
Right.
These people just show up every day to volunteer. And obviously the volunteer system wouldn't work real great because we have to be to our stations on time and for the entire period. And that typically only happens when we have paid employees. So yeah, and they're paid by the police department, and they, their mission is to get these kiddos to and from. Yeah. So
That's actually one of the things that I like about the job as well, is that we have the police department like so on our side and ready to just help us with whatever at any time that we need. And it's nice to know that we can work together on that, and we're not just alone out there trying to figure it out, that at any minute we can have them there. Or a lot of times they are at our crossings watching and just making sure there's no one speeding. And
that's a
obeying the
coordinated effort
laws.
too. Not only does this team coordinate the assignments and the personnel, they coordinate the enforcement in the area. And so they both have a very strong role in making sure that the traffic unit is at areas where they've had issues, So we've had some critical issues where drivers simply will not comply, and so we've had to visit with them the next day because they typically drive the same route every day. So we get to visit with them the next morning, except it's usually with the red and blue lights on a motorcycle versus on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
the other thing I think I would want to share is the creation of these safe walking routes are specifically designed to help the kids get to school in the safest route possible. And a lot of times there's confusion about safe versus convenience. So our safe walking routes are not always the shortest or the most convenient. And at the end of the day, it's the parents' decision as to whether or not where their kids are going to walk. But we hope that parents are understanding of the fact that our job is to keep the kids safe. If they have to walk 50 extra steps, they're going to be okay. And it's because we want everyone to get to school safely.
And it might be helpful to know where I would find the safe walking route if I was a new parent to Herriman City.
So most of them, they're going to go to their schools. It's the school's responsibility to get those safe walking routes out. And they usually send them out at the beginning of the year, but then you can find them on their individual schools' websites throughout the year. That's where you can look.
And it's a good thing to go there yearly because they do change.
They do.
Herriman City grows very quickly, as we all know, and they will change based on boundary changes or simply a new neighborhood coming in and we have to move kids in a different way.
I wanted to revisit something you said at the beginning. That's a joint effort that takes several months between the police department, the city's engineering department, the school district, the community council, the school. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of collaboration. It is not just some person just throwing a line on a map
Right.
and hoping for the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
You consider the size of the road, the speed of the road, traffic, the amount of kids, the direction they're going, what school they're going. This is something that's revisited on an annual basis, right?
Every year.
Well, and there's engineering science behind it, right? But there's also people that go out and count kids at crossings, and that might be worth a little explanation too, as to what warrants a crossing guard versus what doesn't. Because we've had some calls like, my kid walks down the street, and we find out that it's the only child that walks down that street. Crossing guards are expensive, like they are paid, and they cost around $7,000 a year to fund each crossing position. And as you add that up, our typical yearly budget's right around $330,000. So it's a significant amount of money, right? And we have to be very strategic where we put those people. And there's a lot of science behind it. And there are people out there hand counting positions afternoon and morning all the time. And they also work for this team, those people that do that.
Science and laws behind it.
Yeah. We need to have crossing guards, and maybe you can help me with this. Is it 10 kids?
Oh, how many kids?
So it depends on if it's a side street or an intersection. So they have different standards. If it is an intersection, I believe that we have 20 kids have to cross at a minimum in order to have the crossing guard. And there has to be like 500 to 800 cars minimum in order to have a crossing guard. So there are different
On the counts.
standards, yes,
Yeah.
that we're looking for specifically. And then, like you said, the speed of the road, how many lanes there are, things like that are all things that we take into account.
Which is another piece of science from the engineering department where they count every road in Herriman once a year. And we know the traffic rates and volumes during the day and throughout the season. So there's a lot that goes behind getting a crossing guard in position.
Yeah.
A lot.
So when drivers are going around and they're trying to decide if they're going to be good drivers and comply with every traffic law, or if they decide that they are more important and try to speed through the zone or cut across a crosswalk when they shouldn't.
If there's a guard in the crosswalk and they go through it, type of thing.
Yeah. What are the penalties? And maybe we don't need to know the exact fine amounts, but what can happen? What is different about someone breaking a law through a school zone or through one of these situations?
Well, and the fine schedule is going to be set by the court, right? I can tell you that in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, it's going to be much more expensive, and you are going to be appearing in court. And the Herriman Police Department has zero tolerance for speeding through an active school zone. Now, not every school has a school zone that's where you'll see the flashing lights, but if it's marked, you need to reduce your speed when children are present in those areas. And there's other things that we do. We tend to, even on the safe walking routes, we'll walk kids a little bit longer if we have to, is what you were talking about, not convenient. But the safest place to walk kids across an intersection is at a light, because then we have some controllability of that intersection. And I think it's important to note that it's the driver's responsibility in all cases to know their environment and what they're approaching, what they're doing, and while they're doing it, right? A lot of times the drivers will think, well, I don't have to do anything unless a crossing guard tells me to do that. Or if there's this side of the road and I'm on the other, they'll, I can tell you that when we get enforcement requests in neighborhoods that have school zones, we will go there, and it is zero tolerance. And we have a pretty organized schedule for that our team helps us with so that we get there.
And enforcement, when you see officers there, isn't to meet some quota or
the quota.
something we
the
talk
quota.
about all the time, but it's not something to increase the city doesn't get a lot of that revenue, but it's really just to keep the kids safe and keep the roads safe.
And quota is, we lawfully can't have a quota in the state of Utah. It is against the state law to have a quota or to make a certain amount of arrests. So we can't do that. We don't do that. I feel very strongly about that. I want my officers to go out and enforce the law when they see somebody violate it. I don't want them going out with a number hanging over their head that they've got to do something in order to meet some performance standard or evaluation, right? Because then we start to get some inequity in enforcement of the laws, and we don't want that. We do want people to drive in Herriman and stop at red lights, which seems to be an issue, and not speed through school zones, which seems to be an issue. And so to answer your question on the quota, no, we don't have one. To answer your question about how much money the city receives when an officer writes a ticket is about nothing. It's really, really minimal. The state of Utah receives most of that fine. The city receives a very little amount, and most of that goes to run the court. The police department, because we're funded differently under a taxing district, sees zero money from revenue from tickets. All of the revenue from tickets that would go to the city, the small percentage that does go to the city, goes into the general fund, which does not fund the police department in Herriman. So none of that is ever returned to the police department. Yeah. And we're set up very uniquely so. And there's some reasoning behind that, so that we're very transparent in how we enforce the law.
Yeah.
All this to say, the police, the crossing guards, not out to get you as drivers. We're trying to keep the kids safe.
Right.
Keep our crossing guards safe. Keep the roads safe.
Right.
And we really appreciate the work that you do every single morning and afternoon to keep the kids safe and try to keep the drivers in line. If you're a driver that isn't in line, please just follow the law. Stop at a red light. Stop at the stop sign. Just follow the law. Thank you so much for coming in. Sitting in a really hot room. We had to turn the AC off, and we're all just about to sweat in here. So thank you, Bethany, Brittany, and Chief Carr for coming in. And thank you for listening and watching. And if you have any questions, how can they get a hold of you?
You can email me. My email is bzeyer@herrimanpd.org. And I'm happy to field any questions about crossings or schools. If you're interested in applying for the job, you can go to the city's website, and that's where you can apply.
Herriman.org/apply. Simple as that.
Perfect. And then come fall, we have a couple more months. Please slow down, look out for the kids, and help us keep everybody safe.
And I would offer that it really is being part of a team. When you become a crossing guard here, it's certainly a family, and we have some fun events that we have just for the crossing guards.
Right.
We do some fun things for that camaraderie, and it's a great job.
Yeah,
It truly is.
Yep.
it is.
Herriman.org/apply. If you're interested, this is something you want to be a part of. We need people, so
Yeah.
please apply. Thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.